Good morning, Connecting Point family. It is Friday, just in case you were wondering. And I hope that you were doing well today and you're excited for the weekend to come. Once again, I have the privilege and the honor of sharing in a devotional thought based on our Following Jesus devotional reading plan from the Bible app. And today, as I shared last week and the week before, today's devotional thoughts are coming out of John with a little bit of mixture of some other stuff. But John has just continued to, grab my attention in many different ways. And I think that there are, just some important, maybe just something that really stood out to me. Maybe I'll say that. I won't call it important, but for me, it just grabbed my attention as I read this morning in our devotional, something that I feel like Jesus was really placing on my heart as I read along in it. And, our reading this morning came from John chapter 19. And so this passage covers like the last part of Jesus's trial and then into his crucifixion. And I felt like there was just two very, very different, I guess you could say, like contrasting things that happened, one at the beginning and one at the end of the passage that we read today. So we were supposed to read John 19, 1 through 27. And in the first half of John 19, 1 through 27, so looking at John 19, 1 through 16, you have the conclusion of Jesus's trial. And you have Pilate going back and forth, between Jesus and the crowds, and essentially claiming to the crowds that he finds no guilt in Jesus, and he doesn't feel right in crucifying him, and finds no basis for crucifixion. And then you have the crowds who are shouting, it doesn't really matter, essentially, like crucify him because he's a problem. Our law requires that he be executed, and so he must be executed. And it ultimately comes down to this conversation of who Jesus claims he is, right? And this happens before today's devotional, but in previous questioning, the reason why they're saying that the Jewish law requires him to be crucified is because of the claims of him being the Son of God. Okay? The claims of him being a king of sorts, the king of the Jews, if you will. And the Jewish leaders do not like this, right? It messes with their power, it messes with their authority. It calls their legitimacy into question. And so they want to get rid of him, and they want to get rid of him quickly. And the way they eventually get Pilate to, I guess, ultimately, I'm going to say play along with them, is by appealing to this statement that essentially, because Jesus has claimed to be king, or because there is these proclamations of Jesus as king, he is a threat to the Roman Empire, and thus he must be killed. And so the Jews kind of wisen up, recognizing that they're not going to get anywhere with Pilate by kind of pushing their law. And so they say, okay, we need to jump into the Roman law and use that to get this man executed. And so they it's an appealing argument. This man is saying that he is a king, And according to the Roman government, we know that there is only one king, and that is Caesar. And so for Pilate to now permit a man to live who is claiming to be a king would almost lump him into this insurrection, would almost lump him into what could be perceived as an attempted coup. And so it would put him in danger. And so in so appealing to the Roman law, finally, the Jews get the attention of Pilate, and it permits him to, or it leads to Jesus's eventual being sent to Golgotha to be executed. And this really stuck out to me because it was just within this last week and a half now in our devotional reading in Samuel. When we first read the first early chapters of 1 Samuel, the intent of the what I'm going to say the political structure of Israel was that God was to be their king. God was to be their leader, their ruler, and they were to submit to him. Well, the people of Israel didn't really like that. In fact, they started looking around and thought it was way more appealing to be structured much more like the world around them. Now, God warned and said, this is going to be a problem. You shouldn't do this. The people said, it doesn't matter. This is what we want. And so God said, fine, I'm going to allow it, but there's going to be a lot of problems associated with it. And you kind of see that same mentality of the Israelites back at the beginning of 1 Samuel, kind of festering to the surface here at the latter parts of this first section of John 19, where the people would rather appeal to the political structures around them than the prophecies, right, of who Jesus is. Instead of squaring with the reality that they are standing face to face with the Messiah that has been prophesied for decades, for centuries, they would rather appeal to the secular law of the land to do away with him. And so there's like this picture of complete disobedience, complete dissolving of like their identity as the people of God here at the beginning of this chapter, right? Because they would rather identify as subjects of Caesar than as the people of God, right? With this last claim at the very end of it, it says, "We have no king but Caesar." This is what the chief priests answered in verse 15. So they would rather find their identity as subjects of Caesar than as children of God, which is where their true identity lies. And so this is like this first picture that I saw. And then the second picture that I saw that is a complete contrast to it comes at the end of the second section of this reading, right? And so this second section is like chapter 19, verse 16, part B through verse 27. And this is actually at the crucifixion of Jesus. And at the very end of this, Jesus's followers are near the cross, right? Verse 25 says, "Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene." And then in a second, you'll also understand that there are other disciples there that are standing at the foot of the cross of Jesus as well. And as he is hanging there on the cross, being subjected to excruciating pain, and is on his way to death, he looks down at his disciples, and I'll just read the last two verses. It says, "When Jesus saw his mother," so he looks down at his mother and his disciples. "When Jesus saw his mother there, and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, 'Woman, here is your son.' And to the disciple, 'Here is your mother.' From that time on, this disciple took her into his home." And so at the very end of this section of the crucifixion, just before Jesus' death, you have Jesus essentially instituting the realization of the Christian family, what it means, where our identity ought to lie, that in our connection to Christ, in our relationship to Christ, we find our identity as a family of Christ. And so I just thought it was really, I don't know, interesting. Like I said, it just grabbed my attention that within this chapter you have two very, very different pictures. First, this picture of the people of Israel, essentially what I'm going to say the religious elite of Israel, who are pushing away their identity as children of God and allowing themselves to be defined as subjects of Caesar. And then you have the disciples who are experiencing extreme loss right now, right? The person that they are supposed to be following, the person that they have depended on for years now, the person that they've looked to for leadership is hanging on a cross. And so I'm sure there is a lot of questions like, what on earth does this mean for us now? How do we go forward from here? And Jesus' answer is, you go forward from here by finding your identity in me as the family of God. I am going to redefine your relationships. That is not just Mary any longer, and that is not just John any longer. John, this is your mother, and Mary, this is your son. And so Jesus essentially looks at the people that would probably be like the down and outs in this situation, and he begins what the religious elite were seemingly destroying just a little bit ago. He reinstates this identity as the family of God, this identity of being, sons and daughters of God. And I know that we've got a lot of stuff going on in the world around us today, and there is a lot of very polarizing conversations that are happening. There is terrible tragedies that are taking place because of people, choosing to be defined by other things. There are decisions that are being made by top leaders to do one thing or another based on the law that we have. And when I read this passage this morning, I feel like I just felt very challenged that while we have the laws in this land, and while they are things that are meant to keep order and to kind of guide the way society should go, and they are good things, the greatest identity that we can have is the identity of being the people of God. We as the church need to be very careful that in our actions we don't find ourselves in the position of the religious elite in John 19 who desired, or not, I don't even know if they desired it, that may not be the right word, but who through their desire, their working to accomplish an end, ultimately identified themselves as subjects of Caesar over being children of God. So I just want to caution us as the church that we don't do that. And I don't know necessarily, I'm not trying to make a statement on what that's going to look like or what we should or shouldn't be doing. I'm just more saying that I felt like God was speaking to me this morning, saying that we just need to be careful. And we need to make sure that in everything that we do, in every decision that we make, in every conversation that we have, in every word that we post, that we are communicating to the world around us that we are the people of God and not that we are subjects of this world. I hope that you can hear this morning and not feel like there is any accusations flying, but there is genuinely my heart that is breaking because of just some of the stuff that I'm seeing in the world around us. So I just pray that today, as we walk through our day, we could be the people that are found at the end of this first chunk of John 19, in verses 26 and 27. These people that are defined by our relationship to Christ. These people who are found to be related because of our connection to Jesus. So today, as you go through your day, show people that you are a child of God, first and foremost. Talk to you guys later. Peace out.